Coming up on Network Africa. U.S. backs ECOWAS' determination to explore all options for the peaceful resolution of the Niger political crisis. Former South African President Jacob Zuma freed from serving further time in prison after being granted a remission status. Plus, Israel evacuates Jews from Ethiopia conflict regions. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers in Lagos. It's the day after the second extraordinary session of the Authority of Heads of State and Governments of ECOWAS, which took place at the presidential villa in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. And these leaders have taken a very strong stance on the political situation in the effort to restore democratic order in Niger Republic. According to them, no option is taken off the table in resolving the political crisis, and that includes the use of force. Our State House correspondent, Larry Lassisi, reports.
It's the second extraordinary session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the ECOWAS, taking place at the presidential villa in Abuja. The focus of this meeting is the political situation in Niger Republic following the expiration of the 7-day ultimatum given for the return of democratic rule to Niger.
Excellency.
The chairperson of ECOWAS welcomes the members with an outline of the efforts by the bloc, including sanctions and mediation efforts that are yet to yield results. He advocates more diplomatic efforts and dialogue.
It is crucial that we prioritize diplomatic negotiations and dialogue as the bedrock of our approach. We did. And we still look to engage the party involved, including the coup leaders, in honest discussion to convince them to relinquish power as suggested.
The body then goes into a closed-door session to review the developments since its last meeting.
We have reaffirmed our commitment.
Hours later, the doors are thrown open and the chairperson gives his closing remarks. He reiterates that all options will be considered in ensuring a peaceful resolution of the situation in Niger.
No option is taken off the table, including the use of force as a last resort. If we don't do it, no one else will do it for us.
It is then time for the reading of the communique.
Uphold all measures and principles agreed upon by the extraordinary summit held on Niger on 30th July 2023. Underscore the determination of the ECOWAS authority to keep all options on the table for the peaceful resolution of the crisis. Enforce all measures, in particular border closures and strict travel bans and assets freeze, on all persons or groups of individuals whose actions hinder all peaceful efforts aimed at ensuring the smooth and complete restoration of constitutional order. Direct the Committee of the Chief of Defense Staff to activate the ECOWAS standby force with all its elements immediately. Order the deployment of the ECOWAS standby force to restore constitutional order in the Republic of Niger.
ECOWAS is urging the African Union to endorse their decisions while asking partner countries and institutions, including the United Nations, for support to ensure a quick resolution of constitutional order in Niger Republic. Some of the presidents who spoke later make clear their resolve on the matter.
ECOWAS cannot accept this. This is not a matter of Nigeria against Niger, not at all. The decision that we have made today, and I hope it will be implemented immediately, is a decision of ECOWAS. All the head of states think that we have tried dialogue with the push of Niger. I personally consider this as a terrorist act, and we cannot let this continue. We have to act. The position of Cote d'Ivoire, which has been endorsed by all of the head of states, and that we have been able to tell these putschists that their place is in the barracks.
Well, if we had made mistakes in the past, we should try to correct it now. There is always a time to get started. I think it was a mistake not to have taken action previously, but now that we are together on this, we should take action to make sure that it does not continue.
It's the end of the second extraordinary session on the political situation in the Republic of Niger, and it's now time to see if this set of resolutions will bring the much-needed stability and the return of democracy to that country. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the United States says it appreciates West African regional bloc ECOWAS' determination to explore all options for the peaceful resolution of the coup in Niger after the group approved a standby military force. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said he was joining ECOWAS leadership in their call for constitutional order in Niger following the 26 July military coup that toppled President Mohamed Bazoum. In a statement, he said that the U.S. would hold the junta accountable for the safety of Mr. Bazoum, his family, and detained members of his government. The U.S. and the UN earlier said they were concerned about the health and safety of the deposed president, who has spent more than 2 weeks under house arrest. More reactions now, this time from Nigerians who have publicly condemned the military intervention plan by the West African bloc, ECOWAS. Some Niamey residents called it an act of war and aggression, while others noted that ECOWAS should attack the cause of the coup d'etat and not the consequences. Another resident said, quote, ECOWAS should seek to unite, not wage war against us.
It should be by dialogue. Let's come to the round table and talk. Because of the human resources there, we don't want anything to happen. Nigeria and Niger, we are brothers, and we share the same border. And there is interrelationship between Nigeria and Nigeria. And even apart from that, we are Africa, we are in the same continent. We should not be like others continents that did not see their brother as their brother. Nigerians are our brother, and we should be our brother's keeper.
US has spent more than $1 billion fighting a war that does not concern it. So for them, it is a loss of economic benefit. We should be looking at it from this same angle. Nigeria should not waste its resources now going to fight in Niger. Rather, we should encourage them to employ diplomacy and solve their problem internally.
Let's get more on this. Joining me now is African Affairs analyst Ibrahim Manoba. He joins me virtually from California in the United States. You're welcome to the program today.
Thanks for having me, Joker.
I like your cap today.
Oh, thank you.
Right, so let's begin with your thoughts on the regional bloc ECOWAS resolution to the coup d'etat in Niger Republic.
First of all, I must say this is really an unfortunate situation happening in our region. And it's so deplorable to see that ECOWAS is considering a military intervention at this point. The problem here is that we have a military coup, and it's just not tenable to want to solve it with another military intervention. Also because the country, Niger, is pivotal in the region. So, you know, in northern Nigeria, not only Nigeria, the Chad area and some other part of that region bewildered by Boko Haram, one of the problems we've been dealing with is the influx of small weapons. And guess where those weapons are coming from? Of course, Libya, but through Niger. So if you have a military intervention in Niger and you have civil unrest or firefight between ECOWAS forces and Nigerian forces, guess who's going to benefit? The Boko Haram elements, the ISIS elements in that country. So we really need to think about our action before we go ahead with this military intervention.
And the ECOWAS chairman, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu, has said that no option is taken off the table. Usually he said that, you know, military intervention is the last option if it's necessary to resolve the crisis. Does this perhaps mean, you know, a full-blown war as the Nigerians are, afraid of, or that they've condemned, the people of Niamey were saying, despite the juntas saying that it's not going to restore constitutional power. Is the military action the right way to go, even if it's the last option?
So we see the military junta initiate or inaugurate a 21-person cabinet, which of course consists of both military and civilian elements, with a prime minister. I know the funny thing here is that we've seen this play out before, recently in Sudan, where the state military junta that took power inaugurated a civilian transitional committee, and only for it to remove the prime minister just a while later. So we can see that the Nigerians are trying to do the same thing here. And ECOWAS should not buy that. We should keep pressurizing the military junta to get out of power. But the question we really have to think about here is the overarching interest in Niger. It's a big exporter of uranium. And guess what? France is deeply interested in uranium. Likewise, the US. But also the US has military interests in the region and in the country as well. And of course, we know the advances of Russia through the Wagner Group across the French-speaking West African countries. So what I would advise the ECOWAS leaders is that although we are trying to achieve a resolution to this problem by being a brother's keeper, we should pursue our options as Africans and not being influenced by Europeans like Russians or even Americans. And you see, when Nigeria or even ECOWAS sent envoy to Niger, they weren't pretty much entertained. But when the former emir of Kano went to Niger out of his own volition, he was entertained. What that means is that the Nigerians could be willing to discuss, but not willing to discuss if those discussions are being pushed by France or the US, whom, of course, the junta have said they do not want to have any relationship with.
And we do know that every war, well, most of it, the conflict's political situation ends in diplomatic solution. We know that the situation in Sudan, well, they've been trying to mediate there, and then, there's the ceasefire fails every now and then. So the diplomacy there has not yet taken hold, but most times diplomacy does come to the rescue of most of these situations. So if the junta, is not yielding to diplomacy just yet, does this mean that they are saying we need more time to do what we say we want to do in Niger? Are they saying open your eyes and see what's going on in our country, that maybe you're not seeing what we're seeing, the reason why we intervened in the government in the first place? Or, what could possibly be the way forward that the junta is begging and, trying to ensure that these other leaders from the bloc see?
So, Joker, this is so complex. And it's so quite unfortunate that we are only seeing this as a case of the military was fed up and they had to seize power from President Bazoum. It's more than that. You go to Mali, Burkina Faso, and now Niger. These are former colonies of France. And if you follow the politics and history of that region, you will see that there has been some very deep anti-French sentiment fermented throughout the last 1 or 2 decades. And why do you see people coming out in Niger? Even students supporting the military. Well, nobody likes the military, but they like the anti-French attitude. So if we really are serious about helping countries like Nigeria or Mali or Burkina Faso go back to democratic rule, we really need to listen to why the people are having this sentiment in the first place. And I think it also speaks to why the US and France needs to stop meddling with elections in West African countries or Africa generally. President Bazoum was a very big fan of France, and France was a very big supporter of this election. And he has questionable characters, just the same thing as the former leaders in Burkina Faso and Mali. These are people who were brought into power to a large extent by France. France has huge military presence in all of these countries. Africans are tired of having French boots on ground, having French ministers come interfere in our elections. So this speaks to a lot of historical and neo-colonial sentiments that we really need to listen to and not just see this as a military versus civilian problem.
So are you suggesting or saying that in resolving the crisis in Niger, as I've pointed out, that maybe there's something that everyone else has failed to see? Do you think the bloc should, look to France to say, okay, so what's going on? What's happening with your relationships with these countries that they have to take over the governments that are, in alliance with them, so to speak? Do you think they should look to, like a country like France, President Macron, to see, look, how can we solve the situation in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Niger Republic?
So I think that would be a bad move, because the problem, as I said earlier, is because people do not like France anymore. France has for many years controlled the economies of these countries. Their money, their central banks were for many years ruled by France. Their democracy were defined by France. Even many of these countries never had universities. Their first university until the 1990s. You have to go to France to go and study.
Sorry,
So
Ibrahim, can I just butt in there? I'm trying to say, maybe to say, France, okay, back off a little bit. Maybe you're part of the problem. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So France needs to back off. And that's why I said this negotiation needs to be driven by Africans. Of course, ECOWAS is taking charge. ECOWAS needs to strongly reiterate, speaking the language that the people understand, that we are not coming here to elevate the agenda of France or elevate the agenda of Washington. This is an African agenda. We want peace in our region. And that has to be the central message here.
And finally, let's not forget that, the Niger Republic also has the support of Mali. They have the support of Burkina Faso, whom its delegations have openly expressed their strong support for the military leaders, the new military leaders in Niger Republic. They've also warned ECOWAS to not use the option of force, because they will be supporting Niger in this stance. I mean, you said before that it's not a good thing for the region. What kind of effect do you think this will have on West Africa?
Joka, it's quite unfortunate that at this point we are seeing a fractionalization of ECOWAS into the French section and the English-speaking section. And I think that's really unfortunate, because this is at a pivotal point where we have all these numerous trade agreements that will need to come into concert and implement, and also, of course, the joint task force that we're trying to achieve to push out ISIS and Boko Haram effectively. And I think it's going to have dire consequences, even if we do not see, and hopefully not, even if we do not see a face-off, between the so-called Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger faction against the other West African neighbors. Even if that doesn't happen, I think this is going to be detrimental to a lot of the projects we already have on ground. Remember, we're trying to replenish Lake Chad, which is causing huge climatic consequences in that region. We're not going to be able to do that if the countries in that region are not in concert. Also, of course, the militarization and terrorization of that region will be brought back. The JTF cannot achieve its aim if Nigeria cannot speak to Niger. And of course, it's also interesting that you see the leaders in ECOWAS pushing all this agenda. You played, before I came on, this comment by President Alassane Ouattara of Cote d'Ivoire, him saying that this is a terrorist attack on our democracy. This same ECOWAS Cote d'Ivoire president was just until recently the chairman of ECOWAS, and he went for a third time. And that's one of the reasons why people often respond, the military often respond, when you have a president that go beyond the constitutional limits. And also you have someone like Macky Sall, the former ECOWAS chairman, also about to go for a third time and imprisoning the opposition leader in Senegal. So it's really a matter of African leaders need to look into the mirror and see themselves and correct the problems that oftentimes lead to military intervention.
Right, Ibrahim, thank you for your time today.
Cheers.
And still to come on the program. Students of Queen's College, Yaba, Lagos, builds innovative project called Eurodam, which is a self-recycling hydroelectric dam for the generation of electricity. Welcome back. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has approved the remission of non-violent offenders in the country. It comes as former President of South Africa, Jacob Zuma, was granted a remission of sentence and therefore will not be going back to prison to finish his sentence. This decision is not sitting well with the main opposition party, the Democratic Alliance Political and Afrikaner Interest Group, AfriForum. Mr. Zuma was in 2021 sentenced to 15 months in prison for refusing to appear at the state capture of inquiry. He only spent 2 of the 15-month sentence in prison and was released on medical parole by the then National Commissioner of Correctional Service, Arthur Frazier, which the Constitutional Court found unlawful. The court, however, threw it back to the current Commissioner, Magoti Tobogale, to determine if Mr. Zuma's time spent under correctional supervision would count as part of his serving his sentence. The Justice and Correctional Services briefed the media on the latest developments. Israel has announced the evacuation of 200 of its citizens and Ethiopian Jews from 2 cities in Amara and Oromia regions affected by recent violence and moved them to the country's capital, Addis Ababa. Amara region is home to thousands of members of the Jewish community. According to a statement, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu directed the evacuees to be moved out of combat areas and that they would leave for Israel soon. Relative calm continues to be reported in the biggest cities in the Amara region amid recent intense clashes between the army and local militias. The army said it regained control in key regions, but residents in some smaller towns and rural districts say local militias are still in charge. And finally, on the program, some students of Queen's College in Yaba, Lagos, have built an innovative project called Auro Dam, which is a self-recycling hydroelectric dam for the generation of electricity. The girls are part of the school robotics club, codenamed Team Aurora, and they represented Nigeria at the recently concluded 2023 First Lego League Asia Pacific Opening Robotics Competition in Australia.
This is Queen's College, Lagos, a government-owned secondary school in Yaba. But it's not just the traditional education that goes on in here. The school has a STEM and robotics club codenamed Team Aurora. In here, the girls engage in hands-on STEAM activities that foster the critical thinking, problem-solving, and creativity skills. It is also in this room that the girls came up with an innovative project that they presented at the 2023 First Lego League Asia Pacific Opening Robotics Competition in Sydney, Australia. Queen's College's Team Aurora was the only all-girls and only African team represented at the championships. It was also the first time Nigeria would be represented at the competition.
We didn't come back with a cup, but we going there, we were winners. Like we came back as winners because we being the only African schools there is a lot. So we took ourselves as winners, even though we didn't carry any cup. But the fact that we went there, we experienced a lot, and we came back, we are winners.
The team had developed a solution based on the designated theme for the competition, Super Powered.
Super Powered is all about finding the solutions and problems based on the transmission of electricity. So we researched on how electricity is transmitted, how it's generated. We actually found out during our research that there are actually 3 processes of transmitting electricity: the generation, the regulation, and the transmission. So we came up with an innovation project, Orodam, which is self-recycling, and it uses water as its renewable energy. We use this project to solve the problem of the epileptic power supply in Nigeria. This project is actually affordable, is mobile, and it's detachable. You can move it anywhere. And it runs on water, which is a renewable energy.
Apart from being innovative, teamwork and collaboration are two skills that the girls demonstrated. But it wasn't easy getting to that point.
Initially, working together was not an easy task, as we are all from different grades. But as time went on, we learned that working together was truly the best, as that is the only way we could achieve a common goal.
It also wasn't easy for the girls to complete the tasks, as they come from different classes and disciplines. But with their dedication and passion, they were able to work together.
We have different timetables. As an art student, my timetable is different from those in science. So when we that were in science, me I'm in art, and they that are in science, we all come together. Like for biology now, I offer biology, but I'm an art student. So maybe during biology period, when our teachers are not in classes or we don't really have things to do, we come here, then we go back to our classes and meet up and copy notes.
As students, they had limited resources to work with. But with the support of their teachers and family, they were able to maintain a positive attitude and be creative.
We had different challenges like building the Orodam. When we were building the Orodam, the materials were either not enough or they were too bulky, or we could not fix the wires. Those are challenges that we faced when we're building the Orodam.
Our parents encouraged us because this world we are now is full of technology and nobody wants their child to be lacked in anything. So our parents supported us in different ways. We got encouragements from our friends, and we were so glad that we went for the competition and we came back as winners.
Exposing youngsters to STEM education is the first step when preparing them for the future of work. And by making it a part of their school curriculum in Queen's College, these talented young girls have been put in the spotlight as they showcase what their innovative minds are capable of.
Well, that's the show today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Joker Rogers.